Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Bowery Mission's 7th annual Inspiring Hope Winter Benefit in support of our women's centers. I'm James Winans, CEO of the Bowery Mission. Since the 1870s, the Bowery Mission has been serving New Yorkers experiencing homelessness and hunger. And we're an organization that believes each person should be seen and known as an individual of eternal worth. And this is what has spurred us through the uncertainty of the past few months. Our commitment to care for our most vulnerable neighbors. Throughout the COVID crisis, we continue to offer life-sustaining meals, health and hygiene care, overnight shelter and residential programs for men and for women, and support for children and families. And we are grateful for the outpouring of so many, you, our volunteers, our donors, who have given your time, your resources to do this work with us. And we are grateful that you are all with us here tonight. We're grateful as well to have Jeannie Gaffigan with us this evening. Jeannie has been a downtown neighbor to the mission for many years. She and her family have served meals together, held sock drives and coat drives and fundraising campaigns on our behalf. And earlier in this pandemic, Jeannie and I hosted a virtual event to talk about the impacts of COVID-19 on New Yorkers, especially those experiencing homelessness and poverty, and the ways that the Bowery Mission was responding in the crisis. Jeannie has been a wonderful advocate for the Bowery Mission, and we look forward to hearing from her later in the program. And now I'm excited to introduce the host of tonight's event, Katie Couric. Katie and her family have been volunteers and supporters of the Bowery Mission for nearly 14 years, sharing their time and their talent generously and personally with men and women experiencing homelessness. I've served alongside Katie on numerous occasions at the mission, and I am so grateful for her care, her compassion, and her ongoing interest in our work. Katie's often used her influence to widen the circle of support for the critical work of the Bowery Mission. And most relevant to this evening, Katie was our very first inaugural host of this Inspiring Hope event in 2014. And since we started this event 7 years ago, we have more than doubled our services for women experiencing crises in New York City, which has meant so much during this pandemic that has disproportionately impacted women. And so we are thrilled to welcome Katie back this evening. And now here's Katie.
James, hi everyone. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction, James. And of course, the Bowery Mission is so near and dear to my heart, not only all the people in need that it serves every day, but the people behind the scenes, Bowery Mission work, people like you, James, and all the people on the staff there. As you all know, first of all, I wanted to say thank you to everyone who's joining us for yet another virtual event during pandemic hell. Hopefully we'll all be together in person next year at this time, but I know it means so much for you all to just tune in and be a part of this really important event. As we know, and as James mentioned, we are here tonight to raise critical funds for the Bowery Mission Women's Centers. Over the past 7 years, this event has raised nearly $1 million, and it is truly transforming the lives of women who need a second chance at life. On behalf of the Bowery Mission, I want to thank everyone who has supported this event in the past, and a big thank you to our event committee and our corporate sponsors. We do not want to forget about them. They're very important. Bloomberg Philanthropies, Brookfield Properties, Avalon Bay, and Clarence. And I could really use some Clarence just about that now, if you know what I mean. Anyway, as James mentioned, my daughters and I have long been big supporters of the incredible work of the Bowery Mission. I love going down and serving meals. I like to bring my extended circle of friends and introduce them to the extraordinary work being done at the Bowery Mission. And I have seen firsthand as well the important work of the women's centers. They don't only provide meals, but they also provide educational opportunities, job placement, a safe place to stay, a way for people to strengthen their faith, which is often a key component, as many of you know, on the road to recovery. Later, we will hear from one of those women whose life has been forever changed by the mission. But first, I'd like to turn your attention to a brief video about the Bowery Mission's women's program. So take a look.
The purpose of the Bowery Mission residential program is to offer hope for women in a variety of crises.
We have women who might be coming from a domestic violence situation. We have people who might be struggling with substance abuse. We have people who might be struggling financially.
But when they get here, they find the safety, the support, the love, the kindness, and the community to be able to grow and move forward in their lives.
If a woman is coming into the women's program, they start through the Gateway program. They're given assistance by our vocational team, our clinical team, and our community life team. That creates a structure where these women have a support system. Once they've completed the Gateway phase, they move on to phase 1. In phase 1, they focus on vocational skills. Phase 2 is primarily looking for a job. Once they have hit all of those goals that they've created for themselves, what it looks like to be emotionally healthy and to be spiritually healthy and to have a job and to be financially secure, they're able to walk out and feel good about what they've accomplished. And then they can come back and still access resources from our alumni program.
It is a real blessing to have women let me know what landmarks they're meeting and goals they're achieving.
I think the number one thing that makes the Bowery Missions program unique is the emphasis on spiritual growth. You are giving them the emotional support that they need so that they can make that connection to Christ and be reminded that they're loved and valued.
That God is putting all the pieces back together and making women whole. I've seen countless examples of women coming in one way and leaving another, even in their physical appearance.
I think the purpose of this work is to see lives transformed. That's what I get out of it. And you see a life that's actually gone through this and is able to just flourish. I love that.
I love the Bowery Mission sort of holistic 360 approach, and what's not to love about that. And I'm really excited to introduce two very special guests to share a little bit more about the Bowery Mission's women's program. Jeannie Gaffigan, writer, producer, New York Times bestselling author, and supporter of the Bowery Mission, as well as Christy Fizemi, the Bowery Mission's Associate Director of Clinical Services. Christy, I'm going to give you a little whoop, whoop, too, because I don't want you to feel left out. And you do such incredible work, Christy. You go to work every day and you interact with the clients of the Bowery Mission's women's program. And is there a particular story that you've encountered, a person you work with that truly seems to embody the work of the mission, Christy?
Yes, I'd like to briefly share the story of one of our younger clients that entered our women's program. Unfortunately, her story is one that many of our clients share in common. Not that one story is identical to the other, but rather there are patterns that we regularly see with clients entering our programs. During this lady's teen years, she lost both parents within a few years apart from each other. As a result, she struggled with depression and at one point attempted self-harm behaviors. Later, she moved cross-country to live with her grandmother and managed to obtain an advanced degree while becoming the primary caregiver for her grandmother. A year prior to coming to the Bowery Mission, she lost her grandmother, which caused her profound grief. After a period of moving around between distant relatives and a few friends, she made her way to the Bowery Women's Center. And initially, she was very quiet, withdrawn. She had like a limited desire to interact with staff and other clients. And at one point, she had conversations with staff about her desire to leave because she felt the program wasn't a suitable fit for a variety of different reasons, including the perception that the staff and clients just seemed too old. However, upon further exploration with her about the real reasons behind her wanting to leave, we became aware it was more connected to the fear of being vulnerable. She shared her discomfort with other clients' transparency during program activities like our recovery groups and not wanting to participate in kind. However, she had great insight and acknowledged that keeping everything bottled up inside wasn't a healthy option either. The counselors provided her with guidance around safe places for transparency and vulnerability. She agreed running away wouldn't be the best for her and decided to resist the desire to escape. Clients refer to this oftentimes as the streets are calling. And that's really an urge to run away from problems, conflict, structure, intense feelings, etc. So what's so amazing about this client story is that slowly but surely, we started to see her let the walls down and open up gradually. This was observed by staff as she shared her culinary gifts with other women in the house, which helped her form connections. She was naturally just funny, which created a lightness in the house, which was so well needed. She spent free time just hanging out, talking with various staff because she enjoyed the bond she was creating with them. She became very vocal during house meetings about program suggestions, improvements, and was seen as an advocate for other clients. She moved past her new comfort level found within our Bowery Women's Center community and successfully attained her goal of independent living by finding full-time work in the retail industry during the height of the pandemic and secure housing with a group of roommates, whom I'm sure were all more youthful than we are. It's witnessing these types of life transformation experiences in our clients that I can honestly say make the work my colleagues and I do on a daily basis so intrinsically rewarding. It's not as simple as pinpointing one thing or person that contribute to these life-altering experiences, but rather the collective benefits around that are found within a loving, safe community, which support clients overcoming adversity and restoring human dignity. One of the things that I appreciate about our approach to care is that we focus on the whole person. We provide both holistic and individualized care to meet each client where they are. First, supporting her emotional and physical recovery needs so that she can then focus on employment or housing goals. Many women come to us from traumatic situations, and our homes are designed specifically to offer a sense of safety and welcome in a trauma-informed environment.
Well, it's an incredible story. And obviously, Christy, we're so grateful for your hard work because it sounds like it took many, many steps to go from A to Z and to get this young woman where she needed to be and at this sort of multifaceted approach. And it required also, Christy, so much persistence and determination, and you just couldn't give up, even though I'm sure there were times where you just wanted to throw your hands up and say, this is a hopeless case. And I think everyone listening to your story is just, and your client's story is really grateful for your stick-to-itness and the fact that you were able to help her come out on the other end. And, you know, and Jeannie, we're going to talk about how dedicated you are to the Bowery mission. But I think, you know, I always hear these stories and think, you know, except for our, you know, luck and genetics and geography there, but for the grace of God, go I. And I know, Jeannie, you're in obviously very, very different circumstances, but I think we heard this cascading effect of when somebody's whole world comes tumbling down. And in many ways, you can relate to that because of your own personal experience with which I thought you could share with people and how it made you recommit to the efforts of the Bowery mission. But first, tell us about your situation. I know you've written a book, but give us the abridged version.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much, Katie. It's a really, it's an honor for me to be here with such amazing women like you, Katie, and you, Christy, are a hero to me as well. So my story, just in brief form, it's in my book as Katie, thank you so much for mentioning my book, When Life Gives You Pears. But the bottom line of my story is that one day I was just going along, overwhelmed, mother of 5, trying to work, get my kids to school, holding everything together as best I could, and essentially stressing and worrying about little problems 24/7, like most of us do. And then after a routine visit with my kids to the pediatrician, where she noticed something was wrong with my ear and told me to get a hearing test because I kept straining to hear her. Suddenly I'm diagnosed with a pear-sized brain tumor that needed surgery immediately or my life would be over. It was just one of those like, what? And because of the position of the tumor on my brainstem, I was told that even if it was successfully removed, the cranial nerves that were around it, that it was surrounded by, could possibly be damaged or affected and seriously impair my quality of life in a number of different ways.
That must have been, I mean, to say terrifying is an understatement. So, clearly it has a very happy ending, and we're so happy about that, Jeannie. But tell us about sort of your support system and how you were able, because I really think this is all about support systems, wherever you are in life. And how were you able to get through what was obviously an incredibly traumatic ordeal for your whole family?
Yeah, it absolutely was a traumatic ordeal. So it was the scariest thing I'd ever faced in my life. And anyone who's here, who's a parent or a caregiver, knows that you're used to putting other people first. And when I realized at that time that it was my life, that I had to fight for, and I had to put myself first, that was also a scary step, because I was like, I was in this kind of vacuum of like fearfulness, like what's going to happen, what's going on. But as I had more time to process, as I was recovering, and it was a very long, difficult recovery, I really began to have this intense feeling that uncertainty and fear that I was facing was something that some people, many people, especially people in the homeless community, deal with every single day. What's going to happen to me? Am I going to live or die? This is a question that, I had never even, had anything like this happen to me. And I realized that there are just so many people that are in this crisis mode all the time. And so after I began to recover, and during my recovery, I started feeling this immense gratitude that I had this network that you mentioned, Katie, this network of support, family, friends, people who came around me and helped me get through this. What would have happened to me if I didn't have this support? And so because I had previously had this relationship with the Bowery Mission, it gave me an incredibly new appreciation for the Bowery Mission, because I realized that the people who don't have the family around them, the friends around them, the home around them, they have the Bowery Mission around them. They are their family and their support system, and they come alongside those who are facing the crises without any other sources of support. And I think the most important thing is that I started to ask myself, how can I not only appreciate the gifts that I've been given by God, but how can I share them with those who are facing these incredible obstacles? And how can I help the people like the Bowery Mission that are helping these people? And not only how can I help, but Katie, you talked about bringing your daughter. That is such an important part of my new outlook on life, is how can I help the next generation become part of the long-term solutions that we need? And it's a critical thing that came out of my crisis, is the determination to help young people not miss out and having their eyes open early at the inequality in our society and the suffering in the world, and that every crisis, whether it's a personal or a global crisis, can be an experience to grow in love with ourselves and with our neighbors.
That's really beautifully said, Jeannie. And I know it's probably just even emotional for you to talk about this, even though it's been some time. And thank you for that. And I was thinking about this, Christy. You have such a huge difficult job, as Jeannie mentioned, and you had some positive news about the young client you told us got a job in retail at the height of the pandemic. Well, I think she's an extremely lucky person, because obviously the pandemic, the economy that's resulted from the pandemic, and the political unrest, I think this state of feeling a lot of chaos and uncertainty, and with some very positive movements for social justice. But it's been a very tumultuous time. I think that's safe to say. And I'm curious what impact that has had, Christy, on the work that you've been doing, because I imagine it's been very tough.
And honestly, like for many, it's been a tough year. This pandemic has uniquely affected the women who have already experienced grief and trauma. We have seen job losses, those that work in the restaurant industry, the clothing industry. And when those businesses shut down, their jobs were also impacted. There's been so much to adjust to, being confined at home, to quickly implementing safety protocols, social distancing, health education, and screening. And we really miss seeing all of our in-person volunteers. It's a lot for women to process, in addition to all the things that they are already facing.
I was going to say, this pandemic has disproportionately affected women, and even more so women of color. And it's become very discouraging. I guess the silver lining is these inequities have really been revealed and exposed in a way that they can no longer be ignored. And I think public policymakers and global citizens realize that they have to do their part to narrow this gaping chasm that exists between the people who are fortunate and people who are less fortunate, to say the least. But there have also been some bright spots, I think, Christy, as well, that you've witnessed. And I think I have been very heartened, I'm sure Jeannie has too, by these acts of grace and humanity that we've been able to witness, and acts of generosity. And I'm curious if you've seen some of that, or if you could share any of that with us to make us feel really hopeful for the future.
Well, the biggest bright spot is that our programs are still a beacon of hope for so many. Some women seek refuge and safety at our emergency shelter accommodation in Tribeca. There they can access meals, clothing, showers, and other basic needs. When other resources were not available during the pandemic, our front doors never closed. At our residential homes, we have seen how women have rallied together to form a sense of community and supported each other with their particular skills, like women helping each other set up Zoom accounts, cooking meals for one another. They're supporting each other in some really meaningful ways. And they have the opportunity to do that in a loving, caring community at a time where there is such isolation. We've also found success in moving many of our in-person services to a virtual format. Things like our writing classes, our book clubs, vocational classes that our corporate partners offer, virtual interview preparation, resume writing, and even psychiatry services, all which normally would be in person, but are now available virtually. Classes like these not only have a positive impact on our women, but also allow them to have contact with the outside world with minimal exposure, which has been a blessing for many. Despite the challenging circumstances over the past year and some experiencing job loss, we continue to see the percentages of women and men exiting our programs with jobs, many in new industries, and housing continue to rise, which is encouraging.
Very encouraging. And Christy, thank you so much for the incredible work that you do day in and day out. And I think everybody, if we could give you a round of applause and you could actually hear it with people not on mute, they would be giving you a big round of applause, Christy.
Thank you. It's a team effort. Thank you so much.
Well, thank everybody on your team. And I'm sure they appreciate you pointing that out as well, Christy. Meanwhile, Jeannie, I know that as a fellow supporter and a strong advocate of the Bowery mission, I think you and I have seen that the need has never been greater. And I'm curious what you've observed during these very difficult months and the service that the Bowery Mission continues to provide so many people.
Absolutely. Katie, what the Bowery Mission has done over the past incredible year has been invaluable. The Bowery Mission never stopped caring for the most vulnerable people in the face of COVID-19, and the staff came to work every single day and welcomed those guests and provided support to love and friendship and companionship and support to so many who are so scared and fearful with the uncertainty that they already had being, exacerbated in the way that Christy just described. And why I'm so inspired by their staff and the counselors and the social workers and the residential team, the vocational team and the chaplains and everyone there who's doing everything they can to help women feel safe and supported during the crisis.
It's true. And I think social isolation is such a huge problem, Christy. And the fact that you've been able to join this community virtually is so critically important because, you can only imagine that obviously the physical dangers during a pandemic, but there are a lot of concerns about mental health, social isolation, and just being able to have that connection with people is so critically important. So I'm so happy to hear that you all have embraced technology and all the positive aspects of technology, because God knows it's got some negative as well. But that's a whole different subject. Anyway, now I'd like to turn everyone's attention to this video where an alum of the Bowery Mission shares her story. So let's take a look at that.
I lost my confidence when my mother passed away. I was taking care of her. She was pretty much my world. And when she died, that was it. I was afraid of everything. I had no job. I had nowhere safe to live. I did not want to live anymore. I just didn't. I was working at the Tribeca campus as a volunteer. The director of the Tribeca campus prayed over me, and she said, "We are going to have to call for an ambulance to take you to the hospital." And I said, "Okay," because there was nothing else to do. They kept me in the hospital for 10 days. At the end of the 10 days, I had a piece of paper in my pocket. It was for the Bowery Mission. And I called the number, and Mary Bell answered the phone, and I said, "I need a place to stay," and she said, "Come stay with us." And so I came here, and they fed me and clothed me. They gave me shelter. They gave me love. They taught me how to pray. They taught me how to have a relationship with Jesus. They taught me the Bible. We learned how to polish our resumes. We learned how to write elevator pitches. We learned how to present ourselves. And I felt that empowerment. I learned how to understand that my problems were not bigger than God. If the Bowery Mission did not exist, I would not be here. I graduated from the Bowery Mission's residential program. I am happy. I am successful. I'm an office manager at a physical therapy office. When patients come to the front desk, it's always a conversation. And the Bowery taught me how to be self-sufficient and how to live my life in the best possible way. The Bowery Mission still feels like home. It still feels like a place I'm welcome. It feels like a place I belong. You guys need me, I'm here. Because when I needed you, you were here.
That was awesome. Tara, obviously, is just one woman whose life was changed, but there are thousands of people whose lives are impacted by the Bowery Mission every single day, pandemic or no pandemic. And Jeannie, it's clear that you're very passionate, and I'm getting a little competitive because I think I need to up my game because you have been doing so much, and you and the other Gaffigans have been coming up with very creative, clever ways to support the work of the Bowery Mission. Can you tell us, and maybe you'll give all of us some ideas of things that we can do as well?
Well, Katie, I am the type of person that, I mean, I guess my kids call me a control freak, but we won't talk about that. I'm the type of person that likes to roll up my sleeves and be there in person, with the headset on, bossing people around. Not all the time, but I really like to go there and do the meals and the, dishes and everything like that. It makes me feel really part of the community. And it's been really hard not to go. But on Sunday nights, we used to go with my 5 kids and put on our aprons and volunteer. So as you mentioned, we've had to find ways to be creative during this time. So when all 7 of us were cooped up in an apartment, I could see the Bowery Mission down the block, but I couldn't go there. We started live streaming our dinners. And this was something we did right away because, my husband's crazy. And essentially, it became this time where we would kind of, be on YouTube live and invite people who are also scared and nervous and what is going to happen to the world to dinner with us. And, just see my kids with messy hair and the mess and everything like that. And we started using it as a opportunity to talk about ways that we could get involved and help people who were suffering during the pandemic. And so one evening, we all put on our Bowery Mission aprons, and we were able to share about the important work they do at the Bowery Mission and make it a thing for other people to say, hey, you might not be able to go there and volunteer right now, but for $1.59, people can eat an entire meal. Like, when have you ever heard of anyone who's able to make magic like that happen? For $1.59, you can get a full meal. And so, my kids got involved. Later on, my son, Jack, for our youth group, the Imagine Society, which is also mentioned in my book, he interviewed James Winans, who we just saw earlier speak, the Bowery Mission CEO, and he had an interview with him of like, how did you get started? Where, how did you get this passion? And then he wrote this story about it and published it in a newsletter for the Imagine Society that went out to all the other kids and youth groups his age. And it was so great for him to be a part of sharing about couldn't believe the $1.59 for a meal. And actually encouraged a lot of people to give through a campaign on Instagram. And so at the end of the year, when we were thinking about what we were going to give financially to the organization, we actually sat down in a meeting with all of our kids, and we talked about all the things that the Bowery Mission did, and we talked about all the ways that they are so essential anyway, since the people are coming back from the Civil War. But when everyone else locked their doors and the Starbucks were closed and everything was closed, like, nobody was thinking about the people experiencing homelessness. It was like, this is where people wash their hands. These are where people, people are saying shelter at home. And what about all those people who didn't have a home? So we talked about this, and the way that the Bowery Mission had these ways of getting, like Christy was talking about, just using their innovation to think about people that everyone's so worried about themselves. So it was cool for my kids to kind of get involved and think about how they were a part of this bigger picture. It wasn't just all about them and all the things that they were missing and their friends. It was about the world. So the kids love being part of that process. And so when we decided to make a gift to the Bowery Mission, we all decided as a family. And so I really wanted to encourage all the guests here tonight, everyone's listening, how you can use your time, your talent, your platforms. And, we all have platforms, like it or not, on social media, and also your financial resources to join the Bowery Mission in the work that they're doing. Because think about what you can do, what creative way you can bring, and how you can support and sustain this amazing work. And doing so, yeah, you're going to help other people. You're going to help a lot of other people, but I can assure you that you're going to get something incredible and unexpected out of it in your own life too.
I love that you're doing it with your kids, Jeannie. It's so important and is teaching them such an important lesson about thinking of people other than themselves, about understanding the importance of philanthropy. And I think that's incredible. I do that some with my daughters, but I think I could actually do it more. So I'm going to take your lead and do that. And maybe you, Jim, and I could do an Instagram live fundraiser.
Yes.
And we could raise even more money for the Bowery mission, even more than we are going to raise tonight, because we have so many wonderful, generous people who are watching us. And this is the whole name of the game, everybody. I mean, I'm sure it's exciting for you to see all of us, but the real purpose is to support the work that people are doing off Zoom and every day in really tough, under very tough circumstances. So we've seen the power of the work, and now we're going to take out our phones. I'm going to take out my phone too, and we're going to get ready to donate. So what does your donation provide? You might be asking yourselves. Well, I have the answer to that. $10,000 can begin the journey of 5 women on their path towards independent living. $5,000 can provide 3 months of services for a woman in our residential program. $1,000 can provide 1 month of vocational readiness training for 1 woman. $500 can provide 300 meals for women in immediate need. $100 can provide 4 nights of safe and dignified, with emphasis on dignified shelter for a woman. And every single dollar that you can give makes a huge difference. Now, because of the generous support of our event committee, corporate sponsors, and donors, we have already raised over $70,000. So let's do this like they do in the sororities when they're very excited about an answer. So Tara told us about the impact the Bowery mission made in her life. Let's give tonight to help change more people's lives. Now, everybody, it's easy to give. You just simply text the following to 56512, leaving a space in between each. So Bowery, your pledge amount, and your name. For example, Bowery, $10,000, Katie Couric. And then we're going to see our numbers growing on the screen with that handy dandy thermometer. So I'm kind of technologically impaired, but I think I can figure this out. So you text the following. So 56512, then you write Bowery, your pledge amount, and then your name. And I'm excited that I am going to make a donation, which can begin the journey of 5 women on their path towards independent living. I'm so happy to do that.